Hello and welcome. In today's video, we're going to take a look at using the Werkstatt to expand the voice architecture of the grandmother. The grandmother's voice features two oscillators, a noise source, and the LFO can actually be used as an audio rate oscillator to achieve 3 oscillator patches. But with the Werkstatt, we can achieve a 3 oscillator patch without sacrificing the modulation offered by the LFO. So to do this, we're going to start by looking at the arpeggiator sequencer section, and I'm going to patch the KB out to the VCO exponential FM in on the Werkstatt. This patching is going to make sure that the Werkstatt's oscillator is tracking the keyboard as I play it. From there, we're going to patch the VCO out to the noise in the mixer section of the grandmother. You'll notice that oscillator 1 is already turned up to noon, so I'm going to do the same on the noise knob so that we can hear both the Werkstatt oscillator and oscillator 1 of the grandmother together. As you can hear, the Werkstatt's oscillator is tracking the keyboard correctly, but we're out of tune with oscillator 1. So I'm going to retune Werkstatt's oscillator by adjusting the frequency knob in the VCO section. I'm going to tune it an octave and a fifth above oscillator 1. So let's hear how that sounds. You should hear a nice phase lock between the oscillators when you arrive at the fifth. This can also be done with a tuner using the VCO out if you have trouble. Now that we've done this, let's add oscillator 2 in so we can hear all 3 oscillators playing at the same time. As you can hear, this gives us a nice thick oscillator tone. And now I'm also going to retune oscillator 2 so that I can get a triad between all 3 oscillators. So now that I've tuned all 3 oscillators how I want, I'm going to add another step of depth to this patch by repatching from my VCO output to the VCF output. What this is going to do is add a low-pass filter just on oscillator 3 before we hit the low-pass filter of the grandmother. So to hear this, I'm going to turn the cutoff down on the Werkstatt, and I'm going to use the LFO to modulate the filter. So I'm going to turn up the amount in the VCF mod section and make sure that my polarity is set to positive and the source is set to LFO. The output for the filter is also slightly quieter than the output for the oscillator, so to account for this, I'm going to turn up the noise knob a little bit to hear it more clearly. So now let's listen to how that sounds. As you can hear, this imparts a nice movement to the patch, and I'm going to add a little bit of depth to that movement by repatching my KB out. I'm going to remove it from the VCO exponential FM in, and I'm going to run it to the mult in the utilities section. From there, I'm going to repatch one copy of the mult back to the VCO exponential FM in. So this maintains the patching we had before, but now I can take an additional copy of the keyboard's output, and I'm going to use it to modulate the LFO on the Werkstatt. So now, as I play higher on the keyboard, the speed of the Werkstatt's LFO is going to increase, and as I play lower notes, it's going to slow down. So let's hear how that sounds. As you can hear, this adds a nice keyboard tracking to the movement on oscillator 3. So now that we've done that, let's add one more step to this patch by turning the filter cutoff frequency down on the grandmother, and I'm going to use the internal LFO to modulate the cutoff here. So now we should be able to hear two LFOs cycling over each other, giving us this nice two-layered movement to the filter tone of this patch. So let's hear how that sounds. As you can hear, the Werkstatt really helps us to expand the voice architecture of the grandmother and enable new possibilities in your synthesis.